Hi, and welcome back to InstaVision. I'm Glenn Reynolds. Well, last week we talked about killer asteroids. This week it's a little better topic. It's killer profits from asteroids. Sounds better to me anyway. My guest is Chris Lewicki. He's the CEO and Chief Asteroid Miner, I love that job title, at Planetary Resources, an asteroid mining company. Well, that's a pretty cool title. Tell us what the company's all about.
Pleasure to be with you today, Glenn. Planetary Resources is a company founded to pursue resources in space. And we see space resources as really being the key to have an economic driver to continue to develop and explore space and use the resources that are out there, much in the same way that we use resources on Earth to live everywhere we do on Earth.
Well, of course, resources in space have the advantage for people on Earth that they come from somewhere else. We're not limited to just what we can find on our planet. Then for things you do in space, they've got the advantage that you don't have to lift them from Earth to space, which costs a bundle. Which one of those is more your focus, or is it both?
Both actually are in the long term. Our present focus actually is the very familiar term of prospecting, which is to go out and use robotic spacecraft to learn a lot more about the asteroids that are out there, just where the resources may be, and of course give us the information that we'll need to plan those future space mines. So that's what we are working every day here at Planetary Resources today. But you're absolutely right. There's a tremendous amount of resources that are out there, and what we have here on Earth actually pales in comparison, of course, with the rest of the wide universe.
Well, what kind of stuff are we talking about? You hear a lot about platinum group metals and things like that. What else are you guys looking at?
Well, of course, there's the platinum group metals that you mentioned, which actually exist in space in higher concentrations than they do on the Earth's surface. In fact, many dozens to hundreds of times as the most productive mines here on Earth. But short of the platinum group metals, there's a number of other interesting resources. One is a very simple one. It's just the water molecule. And water, of course, is the essence of our own life. We're mostly made of the stuff. We use it to grow plants. We use it for industrial processes here on Earth. And in space, you can use it for two other things. One is to surround yourself in it and have a bit of radiation shielding from the cosmic radiation in space for space travelers. And the other is to break that hydrogen and oxygen water molecule into the atoms, which are the same type of rocket fuel that launched all those space shuttles. And that really is the oil of space. We'd like to talk about it. It's the big opportunity to open up transportation and allow us to do anything in space that we might be interested in doing in the future.
Yeah, when you've got water in space, you're really pretty well set. You can break it up and you can have oxygen. You can have oxygen and hydrogen for rocket fuel. You can have water to grow hydroponic plants to eat. I mean, it's just it's reaction mass. It's just golden. That's absolutely right. So you've got a lot of pretty big name investors. I know Larry Page from Google, James Cameron, Peter Diamandis, and such. It seems like there are just a lot of a whole generation of entrepreneurs who've made their money usually some other way who are interested in space now. Why do you think that is?
Well, I think a lot of these people actually grew up on the beginning of our space program in Apollo and the race to the moon. And of course, that achievement continues to inspire people to this day. I wasn't alive when we finished landing on the moon, and I've had to, of course, read all those stories and see the movies. But we have a generation of entrepreneurs who have innovated in their respective areas, doing incredible things on the planet for incredible good. And technology and what we know about space and the groundwork that has been laid out by governments in exploring space actually has gotten this to be a thing that small businesses and startups and private industry can actually start to consider for development. And the people putting their wealth towards it from an investment standpoint is just the start.
Well, it's interesting because this is stuff I worked on a lot in the 80s and 90s, and for a while it seemed like we just weren't getting anywhere with it. Everybody was talking about private space, but not much was actually happening. And then all of a sudden in the last 5 or 6 years, we've just seen this boom. And I have to say I'm really pretty gratified by that. Now, NASA just announced plans for its own asteroid lassoing mission. How does that affect your plans?
Well, it's actually very exciting that NASA is taking up this task. It's something that's been discussed for a little while, and it's based on a study that I participated in a little bit more than a year ago with the Keck Institute for Space Studies. And the idea was a relatively simple one. Instead of sending astronauts deep out into space on a long voyage to go and explore one of these objects, perhaps we have the technology available to us today to go out, find a small one, and bring it back to us, where we can study it kind of with shorter trip durations and closer to home. So we're excited about this at Planetary Resources because it represents more government investment in helping getting an industry started, the opportunity to do really what industry can't quite do by itself, which is to send astronauts out into deep space. And this is the opportunity for both human and robotic systems to work together, as well as public and private efforts to kind of collaborate on a common goal. And that is understanding more about these objects, protecting the Earth from them, as you spoke with Ed Liu last week, and also looking to the resources and how we can apply those resources in the things that we probably can't even conceive of yet today.
Yeah, I was actually quite gratified to see somebody, I think it was actually somebody from one of your competitors, Deep Space Industries, another asteroid mining company, actually raised the issue, and the administration said quite clearly, we don't want to compete with the private industry here. Our goal is to facilitate, not to get in their way. And I was very glad to hear that.
Yeah, us too. And this really is an opportunity. NASA has been learning over the last few years in programs like Commercial Crew and Commercial Resupply of the space station and other efforts, including the Google Lunar X Prize, actually to put out incentives for the creation of data and finding new and innovative ways to gather information about various parts of its mission. And these are really, truly commercial efforts where you don't necessarily bid on a contract and they get paid by the government, and the government is taking all the risk. But private industry is putting its own innovation, its own capital on the line to do something that there is a growing market for. So NASA is certainly learning this and has been successful at it, and we've got a couple of good examples to show. We certainly think there's more ways they can do this in the future, especially with an asteroid mission like this.
Yeah, I think that's just terrific. I'm very happy. Well, last substantive question, at least. Are the technologies you're developing here relevant at all to the sort of related task of protecting us from killer asteroids?
Certainly. So we are interested in identifying, characterizing, and then ultimately targeting asteroids that will be resource targets. And we need to look at all the options that we have available. We're developing the Arcid series of spacecraft. You can see it on the table behind me here. That's a full-scale prototype of our space telescope. And this is the same technology that we'll use to send out to the asteroids and characterize them before we start making the even larger investments of setting up those space mines to develop the resources. So as NASA goes out to look at these targets, we see an opportunity to leverage that and explore many more targets faster than we could do alone, and also having competing interests. It's really a demonstration that it's an industry, an idea, and a capability whose time has never been closer than the present, and we're happy to be doing our part in this area.
Yeah, well, when you can find an asteroid and you can intercept it to mine it, you can find it and intercept it to do something else, I guess. So it all does sort of fit together, which I think is just terrific. Well, final question, where should our viewers go to find out more? We have a website at planetaryresources.com, and there you can find all our various social media, email, and other feeds. We've been posting blog updates, some of the topics, what NASA's budget is coming at today. And also, we're hiring anyone who is also interested in being an asteroid miner and has the right set of skills. We're looking for the best people on the planet, and maybe some of them are watching today. Well, that's great. As long as you're not looking for experienced asteroid miners, I think that might be a little tricky at this point. But we may well have some viewers who are interested, and I hope they apply. Thanks so much for taking the time to join us. Thank you very much, Glenn. I enjoyed the discussion. Thanks a lot. And that's Chris Lewicki. He's the CEO and Chief Asteroid Miner of Planetary Resources. There's just a whole lot going on in space, and I'm extremely happy about that. I hope you are too. Well, we'll be back next week. In the meantime, have fun on the internet. Thanks.